Hello, thanks again for watching. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much for taking your time to actually come and listen. Please don't forget to subscribe so that you can join the community. If you are a subscriber, thanks again for watching, taking your time again to just come and learn more. So we are continuing with our series on estate planning. Now, in today's video, we are going to be talking about marriage and estate planning, marital regimes and estate planning. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do like the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family, and comment below if you have any questions. Comment below. Thanks again to everybody that continues to participate and they're asking questions. Let's learn together and let's take care of our finances. Let's take control of our finances in the year 2021. All right, so the reason why estate planning and marriage is so important is because when it comes to estate planning, we are looking at a client, right? So estate planning, it ensures that a client's wishes are carried out and their beneficiaries benefit from his death according to the client's intentions. So it just ensures that succession takes place and the beneficiaries are able to inherit certain assets. So the marital status of a client is very important when it comes to estate planning, because the way that a client is married determines how the assets will be distributed. So do you have a spouse? That is the first thing that we need to look at, because there's certain exemptions in terms of taxes that when you give something to your spouse, they are excluded from certain taxes that they have to pay. Hence, when we are doing your will or when we are doing succession planning, we take into account how you are married. Now, there are different types of marital regimes within South Africa. So we've got 3 types of marital regimes. The first one is in community of property. Then we get your antenuptial contract and with accrual, and then we get your antenuptial contract. So before we even talk about in community of property, I need you to understand a spouse. So according to the law, it's very important for us to know who your spouse is. So there's a certain definition of a spouse that our law uses within South Africa. So a spouse is a partner that you are in union with, either by marriage or by customary law. And they also take into account a union that's joined together by religious reasons. So that is what a spouse is. Now, the definition of a spouse is very important because there are certain exemptions or certain benefits that are there. So we need to understand what is this definition of a spouse. So now, when it comes to estate duty, now according to Section 4Q of the Estate Duty Act, spouses are free from paying estate duty. So when a bequeath is given to a spouse directly, they don't need to pay estate duty on that specific asset that has been distributed to them. If there are transfers between spouses, then the spouses will be free from paying capital gains tax. And at the same time, if there's donations between spouses, the spouses will not be liable to pay donations tax. Hence, we need to understand the definition of what is a spouse when we are doing our succession planning or drawing up your will. So now let's talk about in community of property. Now, in community of property is a joint estate. So this is when 2 people are married, right? And then all their assets are one community. So they become joint. And each person has a 50% share of all the assets within the estate. So what happens is whatever you accumulate during the life of your marriage, it becomes a joint estate when we mix it with your wife's estate. Now, within community of property, the 2 estates become one estate. So if, for instance, you have assets that you don't want to include within your marriage, then it's always best for you to do that before and get an antenuptial contract. So it becomes a joint estate. All the assets are one. Whatever you accumulate, all the assets are one, and everybody has 50% claim. So it doesn't matter if, for instance, one is working and bringing in a lot and the other one isn't. It becomes a joint estate for both profit and loss. So now, but there are also certain assets that are not included in the joint estate. But please note that these assets are not included only if they are received from the third party, right? And if the third party says that they are excluded from the marital union. So these assets are inheritance that the person got from a third party, or any gifts that were given from the third party. So within community of property, right, in order for you to, it occurs on the date of marriage. So in community of property, it takes place on the day where you get married. So yeah, so that is in community of property. So now let's talk about out of community of property. So as I've explained earlier on, your abstinential contract is divided into two sections. So either you get your ANC with accrual, or you get your ANC without accrual. With ANC, each spouse will continue their estate independently. So it's not like in community of property where it becomes a joint estate. So it's two separate estates. So again, when it comes to the accrual system, so with the accrual system, how it works is at the dissolution of the marriage, so either by death or by divorce, what will happen is there will be a calculation that we're going to be doing. And if we find that the spouse that has a smaller accrual system, whose estate grew by a smaller amount, will have a claim against the other spouse according to the differences within the accrual calculation. So that is how the accrual system actually works. Now, there are also certain items that are not included within the accrual system. So that would include damages. Let's say, for instance, somebody hurt you somewhere, and after the particular person hurt you, they paid you damages. So that will not be included in the accrual system. Also, anything that's stated within the contract before you get into the marriage is not going to be included, and things such as your inheritance and your gift will not be included within the accrual system. Now, another thing that we need to talk about when we speak about marriages is insolvency. So when you are married in community of property and it happens that your spouse becomes insolvent, because it's a joint community, because it is one estate, it means that when one spouse becomes insolvent, automatically the other spouse is going to become insolvent. But with out of community of property, because these two estates are independent from each other, when one spouse becomes insolvent, the other spouse will not become insolvent. I will actually do another video that talks about insolvency so that you can be able to understand it, how we calculate insolvency within estate planning. So as I've explained earlier on, before you can even draft your will, it's important for us to know how you are married, because how you are married determines how we distribute your assets. And also understanding who is your spouse also determines which exemptions are you excluded from. So another thing is to remember is that any transfers between spouses, they are excluded from your capital gains tax. Any bequests to your spouse, they do not pay estate duty tax, and if there's donations between spouses, no donations tax will be paid. So that is all about marriage. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about the law of succession. I will be covering what happens when a person passes away with a will and what happens when a person passes away without a will. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this video was insightful, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family. I will see you in the next video.